Hi. How
Hi,
you
everybody.
doing, T?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Well, good. What are we going to talk about tonight? Did we run out of topics?
Never. There are so many topics to talk
We
about.
can do one a day for the next 5 years, I think.
Exactly. Let's talk
Well,
today about how to get dogs meeting each other.
okay. So you mean when a new dog comes in, when you're bringing a new dog into the house? Summer.
Exactly.
Yes, we're going to do that. And then at 6 o'clock, Mariah is going to join us to talk about. Mariah was the foster and adoption coordinator, doing much of what you do now, but doing it as a full-time job. So you can imagine the experience she has. She did it for a long time. So anyway, um, when you want to introduce two dogs, the worst way to do it is like this, coming
Mhm.
face to face. It just is. It puts the dogs on edge. You might know that your dog is really good. You might say, "Oh, my dog's fine with everybody." But we don't know about the new dog that's coming in, and we don't know how your dog is going to react. They're unknowns. So with dogs, a first impression is really everything. If they don't get along on that first impression, it can be hard to fix. So you want to do it right. And the way to do it is called parallel walking. Okay. So yeah, parallel walking. What you ideally in a perfect world, the dogs are going to be exercised and relaxed, okay? And hungry. Hungry is always any kind of like big training. Hungry is really good, relaxed and hungry. Um, and you want to have high value treats. You should only have one dog per person. Each dog will be on a leash. So if a home had two dogs that was meeting a new one, you'd have two people out there. They're going to
Hey,
have,
Linda, can you give
yeah,
some examples of high value treats?
sure, sure. So a high value treat would be something they may not ordinarily get, but something that they really like. They really, really like. Okay. Um, it can vary, it does vary, but in most cases, like chicken, pieces of hot dog, yeah, believe it or not, freeze-dried liver treats are really popular. And at the SPCA, I used to call it école de fromage because we would get there and before class we would be cutting up hot dogs and cheese, and that's what they use. It's less expensive and it's super high value. Most people that have a dog already, they know what that dog's high value treat is. With a shelter dog, we don't know, but you know, it's not hard to figure out. So each person wants to have treats. You're going to start, I mean, imagine a quieter city street or a suburban street, but a quiet street, not Mission, you know, maybe maybe Hampshire or Florida. And you're going to start with the people, the parties on opposite sides of the street, okay? And then they're going to start walking. You walk slowly. So they're both walking in the same direction really slowly, and you're using your treats. So dog number one or number two can see another dog across the street, but they're getting treats. Now, if one of those dogs starts to react, what you want to do is take a treat, lure the dog away, have them sit, and then in a minute start again, but have the other dog start either farther away or a little further up the street. Okay? Yeah. You want to keep enough distance initially so that there is no reaction.
Hmm.
And I've never had to start a half of a block away, but you gauge it that way. So if you and I were doing this, you would be walking slowly, and I would be walking at your pace, and I would be walking at a place where the dog knows I have treats. He's getting treats. He's walking down the street, and he's not. looking over at your dog and trying to pull the well. I'm gradually going to move into the street, not get hit by a car, and I'm going to come over to where I'm like 6 to 10 feet away from you. And I'm going to come up slowly from behind. And as that's happening, you start feeding treats and spilling
Mm.
treats. That's not hot dog, hot dog. It's like hot dog. You just spill a bunch of treats on the ground. The dog, the dogs know that the other one is there, but they want those treats more. And so they will do this. I've read things where it's done differently, where you have one dog do a butt sniff on the other and you give them a treat. But the way we did it at the SPCA was really like using spilling the treats. And if I get to 6 feet and this dog is like, or I don't get my treats out in time and he's goofing off, I'm just going to back up and do it again. The goal of the exercise is for the dogs to meet in a peaceful, relaxed way. They're getting rewarded for it. They like it. And that's parallel walking. And generally speaking, if you do, I mean, it could take 15 or 20 minutes maybe, but if you do it and you do it right, they're going to be okay. And you don't want to take, I mean, sometimes you have to. It's pouring rain or whatever's going on, firecrackers, But ideally, you don't want to take the new dog into the other dog's house. You don't want to do it there. In a worst case scenario, you could do it in the backyard, but it's a lot better to do it out on the street.
Right, a
Doesn't
more
even have
neutral
to be a,
territory.
yeah, it doesn't have to be a dog park. And with the street, once they're okay, then you can go in the backyard or in the house, drop their leashes, keep the leashes on them, and just let them play and keep using the treats to reward. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Do you have any
Totally.
questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. I was going to ask, how long roughly should you spend having them get to meet each other? And then, if that's going well, do you take a break and have them meet again a second time? Or sort of what are like, how does that continue to
Good
develop?
question. You want it, you always want to work when you're reshaping or testing a behavior, you want to work below their threshold for reaction. So if my dog is 10 feet from you and he's okay, and then I start to move in and at 8.5 feet, he's starting to look over and his body language is changing. I'm going to pull it back out. I'm going to pull it back out to 10. And um, and it's always important to end on a positive note. And
Hmm.
so if it was a shorter thing and maybe they didn't come together, but they did it once, then you could say, let's just go around the block and then we'll size. I've never had a lot of trouble. Generally speaking, it almost always works because we ask the shelters when we're rescuing dogs, we want to know, how does this dog get along with other dogs? So we've got a clue ahead of time. These dogs coming out of the shelter, many of them have never been on a leash. So
Yeah.
there's an
Yeah, that's
added
true.
mystery for them.
Right.
Um,
And I
but
would guess, I feel like dog parks are a little challenging because there's so many more distractions, right? There's all these other dogs also
some
there.
distractions, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So more of like a quiet street is really where you want to do this.
Yeah, ideally. Well, if the person lives, hopefully they live close to a quiet street.
Right.
Yeah. But
Very
you could
true.
put them in the car and drive over to the house afterward. Once the dogs meet, it's generally just fine. And
Great.
if it wasn't fine, if it was a disaster, you'd know pretty quickly, okay?
Yeah.
Because you'd start seeing heavy duty behavior from one or both of them. You could have a female Boston Terrier that's great with other dogs, and then she meets another female dog, or that female dog could be coming into heat. And there are little things that can just kind of set it off a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
generally, I assisted in the class that they had called Growly Dog. I was a volunteer there. And in the Growly Dog class, this was for dogs who are leash reactive toward other dogs. Okay. It was
Mhm.
guaranteed that they were going to be jerks on the leash. And in the first session, they were introduced to a dog fairly far away. And I won't explain the setup. The setup was very particular. But as that other dog walked by, the owners of the dog would just start spilling treats on the ground, and the dog
Yep.
would look up, but then he'd go for the treats. And
Mm,
they did this about 3 or 4 times. By the end of the first class, as soon as the dog saw another dog approaching, it looked down. This is such a classic example of how they learn by consequence and association. Like the consequence of seeing that dog would be getting all those good treats. And
right.
that's what starts to form a more positive association. So um, there's more to it. Do you want to keep your dogs on the leash at all time? If they look at each other, if they just glance over and look back, good boy, whatever the treat. You want to reward the good behavior. If they do something that you don't want them to do, um, you don't want to reward that. You might stop and ask them to sit and make them wait for a moment, reward that, and then keep walking.
Yeah.
Makes
Makes a lot of
sense?
sense.
We can practice
Absolutely.
when I get there.
Yes. That is very exciting. And I should note that this is really helpful information for anyone who's looking to foster or adopt a dog. And actually,
Absolutely.
we always require with Wonder Dog or with Wonder Dog, we always require a meet and greet before anyone adopts a dog. And if you've got dogs at home, then they have to be part of that meet and greet. So this is how you could do that: is try
That's
out.
such an interesting point because when we did mobile adoptions and an adopter was coming, they would bring their family and they would have their dog and they would all just walk over to the area. So we were not doing that. If they came early and I saw them in their car, I'd say, hold on, I'll get the dog. And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to wait around the corner. You get out of the car with the dog and start walking down that way, and then I'm going to catch up with you. Uh,
Right, exactly.
so it's not always going to happen. And if you have two dogs that are just mush babies, then there's just, it's just so much easier.
Very
And
true.
also reading the body language, if a dog is really tight and stiff, like if a dog is really tense, I might not even do that. I might just say, you know what? Let's just bring the dog into your house, give him his own space. Don't make him interact with the other dog or anyone, and let's just let him decompress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay? Because when human beings or any animals, well, mammals, when we're really stressed, we can't think clearly. We can't make good decisions. Our minds are like this. And being able to be calm puts you in a different place.
and Linda, do you think if a meet and greet, if two dogs are meeting and they're doing parallel walking and it goes okay, it's not a disaster, but they also didn't quite have a fully successful meeting, do you think there's still hope for them? Was it worth trying to have them meet again? Or is it like that's probably just not they've got some stress associated with that dog. Is it case by case? I'm wondering if,
How would they react? Tell me what they'd be
Yeah,
doing.
let's say we have a situation where you are getting these two dogs closer to each other and they're doing okay at about 10 feet, but then at 8 feet, they're starting to feel a little bit more stressed out. So we pull them back out. And they just don't ever actually have a successful meeting necessarily. Nothing crazy, but we're just noticing they get a little stressed out enough for that they don't actually meet each other and come up to each other and sniff each other. So it's not a disaster. No one ended the day feeling terrible, but they didn't actually fully get to meet and walk with each other. Would that be like, okay, probably best that we try this with another dog, or is it worth trying it again with those same dogs?
Well, it's worth trying it again. And like we said, 5 minute break, do it again, stay at 10 feet. Maybe if I'm the one moving in toward you, maybe I moved in too quickly. You know,
Mm.
um, we have to be able to uh, listen to the dog, know what the dog needs, and accommodate that. And there's another thing at play too, which is that a lot of dogs, they used to talk about pack order. I have not had time to research what it's called or the dynamic around it. But the pack order thing makes sense to me that when you bring a new animal in, he's looking around at first, but then he might try like he might try, I want her food dish, like they're trying to show that they can edge their way in and get something. And so Ian Dunbar used to say, if they're not drawing blood, let them work it out. Because ultimately they have to, just like kids in a
Mhm.
schoolyard,
Yeah.
Um, and they do work it out. But there are times when people will take a dog home and go, oh, they started fighting immediately. Oh, it's not working. And I'll say, okay, did any dog bite? Yes, he bit. I said, did he break skin? No, no. And it's like, okay, that wasn't a bite. It's kind of a posturing. You got to read the person if you're going to a foster or an adopter. If the person can't handle it, you might know that it's going to be okay. But if they don't, you're just delaying the the torture for everybody. Um, so makes me think of another thing that I'm going to pull off my wall and I'm going to put this on the webpage. I should check to make sure it's okay. Ian Dunbar had a scale of aggression from 1 to 6, and levels 1 and 2, made no contact. Okay. So a dog's growling or even snapping, and someone's like, oh, he's so aggressive. No, he's not. He's giving you a warning signal. I mean, he might be
Ah,
aggressive, but right now you're getting a warning signal. It's like if somebody at night walks up to you on the street or they're following you and then they get closer, you're going to say or do something. And that's what the dog is doing. He's saying, you're in my comfort zone, like back off, back off. That's what's going on. And Dunbar said, I'll put my money on a 1 or 2 dog because they've got bite inhibition. Numbers 3 through 6 are a lot worse than that. And then he said, then there's 0, which is the unknown.
mm.
We get in this cute little chihuahua from the shelter or a cute little whatever it is, okay? This dog is an unknown until we know, until we've spent time with the dog and we see how they react to certain situations. And most people have unknown situations with their dogs. But as a rescue, we want to know as much as we can. So knowing how to evaluate and train, to being trained to temperament test the dog, is a highly valued skill. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's about
Great.
it, unless you have another question.
Let's see. I think you've answered all my questions. You've solved all my problems. We're set. I'm
For the
gonna nail
moment.
this every time now.
For the moment. All right. Well, I'm at the beach, so and I've got my
Enjoy
rash
yourself.
guard on.
Yeah. Have a great. I noticed it's a beautiful day at the beach. Enjoy yourself.